This is iFiber One News. Here are today's top stories.
Rural legislators from both parties got a closer look last week at Washington's wolf country.
State lawmakers who are key in support of funding for the State Department of Natural Resources wildfire fighting crews joined State Lands Commissioner Hillary Franz on Tuesday in learning how to deploy wildfire shelters.
When you're a fan of a team who plays in a league with only 4 teams that all make the playoffs, the postseason equation is pretty simple. Win 2 games and win the championship. For the Wenatchee Valley Skyhawks, the mission in round 1 of that easy formula was to amass more points on the scoreboard than the Reno Express at the end of 60 minutes on Sunday night at Town Toyota Center.
From the iFiber One newsroom, this is iFiber One News. And it starts now.
Rural legislators from both parties got a closer look last week at Washington's wolf country. State Representative Joel Kretz of Wakanda brought members of the House Rural Development, Agriculture, and Natural Resources Committee to his district to tour wildfire-affected areas and meet with ranchers whose livelihoods have been affected by roaming wolf packs. Kretz and others in Northeast Washington have been critical of state wolf practices, and the committee heard from local ranchers in a Danville town meeting. Last week, the State Department of Fish and Wildlife authorized the destruction of a wolf pack believed responsible for killing a cow in Ferry County. Kretz's fellow Republican Representative Tom Dent of Moses Lake was among those on the junket, as well as Democrats from Kirkland, Port Angeles, Bow, and elsewhere. The committee's chairman, Democrat Brian Blake of Aberdeen, was sympathetic to ranchers. As a state, he said, we've got to do better by these communities. Jefferson Robbins, iFiber One News.
This segment is brought to you by...
Change doesn't have to be complicated. With a low-profile microwave hood combination that's ready to install right out of the box. It fits in the same space as your under-cabinet hood, so you can get your microwave off the countertop and make space for the routines worth keeping. The low-profile microwave hood combination from the #1 selling appliance brand in the USA.
Whirlpool Appliances, now available at more furniture in Ephrata.
State lawmakers who are key in support of funding for the State Department of Natural Resources wildfire fighting crews joined State Lands Commissioner Hillary Franz on Tuesday in learning how to deploy wildfire shelters. Representatives Beth Dolio, an Olympia Democrat, Drew McEwen, a Mason County Republican, and State Senator Christine Rolfs, a Bainbridge Island Democrat, participated in the demonstration near the Capitol. Knowing how to deploy the shelters allows those who are successful at it to safely travel to state fire lines, including members of the media. Fire shelter deployment, while rare, happens in the event that a wildfire threatens firefighters and others on the ground. Chuck Turley, Wildfire Division Manager at DNR, said the shelters used Tuesday were training models for the real thing, which is thicker and a reflective silver color.
Any of our firefighters that have any sort of operational qualifications that might take them to the fire line, this is a part of the required annual training that they go through. There's a refresher course that they take each year. They do this. There's also a physical fitness capacity test that they take, and those are annual events that everyone that might get to the fire line has to do.
Fran says her firefighters know there is a serious risk in their jobs.
Well, I have firefighters who've been doing this work for 30 plus years at our agency, and one of the things they were saying in May was, Hillary, the conditions we're seeing, this is the kind of conditions where firefighters can lose their lives because it was so hot, because it was so dry. We all remember the fatalities of 2015 with the Twist Fire. Washington State is not a stranger to losing our firefighters' lives.
Fran says July rains have helped reduce the risk of wildfires after a fiery spring, but a hotter, drier August could be a different story.
We started this year with some really significant concerns. We actually had the highest risk in the nation for wildfire, and what we were seeing on the landscape was really making that theme true. With 54 fires second week in March, 53 west of the Cascades, and then it continued to pick up pace.
The State Lands Commissioner praised the work of firefighters now battling Grant County's power line fire that has burned 7,800 acres and is about 50% contained. Dolio says she believes climate change is behind the increase in Washington wildfires.
We have got to take climate change seriously, and we have got to reduce emissions as deeply and quickly as we possibly can.
McEwen complimented Franz for working with state lawmakers in a bipartisan fashion.
I do want to thank you, Hillary. She has been the most active commissioner that I've seen with our caucus and working both sides of the aisle to find out what works, what doesn't work.
I'm Jeff Chu for iFiber1 News.
This segment is brought to you by...
Are your taste buds bored? Well, then bring them to Jay's Teriyaki. Not only does Jay's have a variety of teriyaki dishes, they also offer mouth-watering salads and sides. Call Jay's 509-764-5155. Jay's Teriyaki, located at 123 East Broadway in Moses Lake, because it's all in the sauce.
When you're a fan of a team who plays in a league with only 4 teams that all make the playoffs, the postseason equation is pretty simple. Win 2 games and win the championship. For the Wenatchee Valley Skyhawks, the mission in round 1 of that easy formula was to amass more points on the scoreboard than the Reno Express at the end of 60 minutes on Sunday night at Town Toyota Center, something the Skyhawks had already done twice in 3 games played earlier this season. After the opening kickoff, the Express defense left the station all fired up and had the normally high-flying Wenatchee offense largely eating turf for much of the game's first 15 minutes. After 2 empty possessions from their it was Wenatchee's own defense that registered the opening points of the contest when 6'5", 270-pound Gabriel Collins barreled through the Reno line and tackled running back Devon Nelson in the end zone for a safety, giving the Skyhawks a 2-0 lead with only 74 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Trapping the Express in their end zone seemed to finally point Wenatchee in the direction of Reno's goal line, as the Skyhawks needed only 3 plays on the ensuing change of possession for quarterback Jarvis Alston to find wideout Devontae Solomon on a 43-yard touchdown bomb, which upped Wenatchee's advantage to 9-0 in the opening stages of quarter number 2. But any thoughts the Skyhawks had of running away with an easy victory like a cheetah flanking down a hobbled gazelle were quickly snuffed out by Express quarterback DeAndre Churchill, whose 36-yard improvisational dash on Reno's first play from scrimmage on their very next drive cut the Wenatchee lead to only 1. The Skyhawks quickly increased their advantage once again on their next possession, however, driving 25 yards on 7 plays and hitting pay dirt with a 5-yard touchdown run by Tommy DeJohnette to go up 15-8 midway into the second quarter. However, what took Wenatchee 7 plays to accomplish, Reno managed in only 1 on their next offensive chance when Churchill hit David Smith for a 30-yard scoring pass, which once again drew the Express to within 1 at 15-14. With time winding down in the first half, the 2 squads then decided to play a little game of musical turnovers, with each giving the ball back to the other on 3 successive possessions, before Reno ultimately kicked off their dancing shoes and boogied into the end zone with a 35-yard touchdown pass from Churchill to Greg Turner on the final play of the first half to take their first lead of the game at 22-15. The Skyhawks' less than rousing performance in the opening 30 minutes of play didn't exactly have the home fans dancing in the aisles, but they certainly weren't running for the exits either. One man who was running, however, was Churchill, whose 10-yard touchdown scamper capped a 4-play, 37-yard drive to open the third quarter and boosted the Express's lead to 13 points at 28-15. From there, the good news for Wenatchee was that they would shut Reno out the rest of the way and score a pair of touchdowns as well, the first on a 3-yard keeper by Alston 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the fourth quarter, and the second on a 31-yard rocket from Alston to wide receiver Wesley Gray with just 5:53 remaining in the second half. The bad news for the Skyhawks was that while their legs and wings may have put them in a position to win the game, their feet failed them on numerous occasions. Place kicker Dan Kleckner missed 3 extra points in the contest, including one which would have tied the game after Gray's score, and also failed to convert on 5 field goal attempts, 3 of which came with under a minute to play, including one that would have won the contest for Wenatchee on the final play of the game, as Reno hung on for a 28-27 victory. Despite his 3 touchdown passes and 1 rushing score, Skyhawk signal caller Jarvis Alston found himself mired in a difficult position throughout the contest. Alston was sacked 5 times and turned the ball over 4 times, including throwing 2 interceptions. Wenatchee's loss put an end to their inaugural season, which they finished with an overall record of 6-7, while the Express will now chug into the league's title bout. The Skyhawks are scheduled to open camp for the 2020 campaign early next year. Reporting for iFiber1 Sports, I'm Chris Hansen.
This is iFiber1 News. For more information on these stories and other news, visit us online at iFiber1.com or check us out on Facebook.